Jujutsu Kaisen Season 3 is almost here, and it jumps straight in assuming you remember everything, the rules, the characters, and what's at stake. And if you don't, Season 3 is going to get confusing very fast. So before it drops, here's everything you need to know to be ready. No filler, no manga spoilers, just the stuff that actually matters. But before we get into it, if you're new here, I'm Dami Weeb and I do anime breakdowns and deep dives. And if you want more Jujutsu Kaisen content as Season 3 drops, make sure to like and subscribe. So before we talk about Season 3, we need to rewind and look at where Season 2 actually left the story. So, Season 2 of Jujutsu Kaisen ends with the Shibuya incident, and there's no other way to say this, it completely breaks the world of the story. Shibuya wasn't just a big fight arc, it was a turning point. The villains didn't just cause destruction, they proved that the system protecting humanity was fragile. The entire plan in Shibuya revolved around one goal: removing Gojo Satoru from the board. Because as long as Gojo exists, nothing else really matters. Villains can scheme, curses can evolve, but Gojo is the ultimate safety net. And in Shibuya, that safety net is taken away. Gojo gets sealed, and now the world has to continue without its strongest protector. And once Gojo is gone, everything spirals. Citizens are caught in the middle, sorcerers are overwhelmed, and the idea that the Jujutsu world could stay hidden completely falls apart. Curses aren't just rumors anymore. Entire city blocks are destroyed. Thousands of people are affected, and for the first time, it feels like the Jujutsu society has lost control of the situation. And then there's Yuji. Shibuya permanently scarred him. Sukuna takes control of his body and causes mass destruction. And even though Yuji isn't the one making those choices, he remembers everything. And that guilt becomes a defining part of his character moving forward. Yuji doesn't come out of Shibuya stronger, he comes out heavier. Every fight after this has emotional weight because he's no longer fighting to prove himself. He's fighting because he feels responsible. And at the same time, the higher ups of the Jujutsu world don't respond with understanding, they respond with fear. And the execution on Yuji is reinstated. And looming over all of this is Kenjaku wearing Geto's body. He makes it clear that Shibuya wasn't the end goal, it was just step one. The world after Shibuya is exactly what Kenjaku wanted: unstable, frightened, and full of cursed energy. That instability is what directly leads into Season 3. So when Season 3 begins, you're not entering a recovery phase, you're entering the aftermath of a disaster, where the strongest sorcerer is gone and the protagonist is blamed, the system is cracking, and the villains are finally in control. Shibuya wasn't the climax, it was just the warning. So this is where Season 3 truly begins. The Culling Games is not just another arc, it's a system designed to force chaos. It's created by Kenjaku. The Culling Game is a large-scale ritual that traps sorcerers and newly awakened cursed users inside designated areas. At its core, the Culling Game is built around rules. Once someone becomes a participant, whether they are a sorcerer or a reincarnated cursed user or a civilian forced to awaken cursed energy, they're bound by a point system. And the points can be used to add or change rules. And choosing not to participate isn't really an option because ignoring the game carries deadly consequences. And this is why the Culling Game feels so different from anything before it. It's not about random fights or missions handed down by the Jujutsu system. It's structured, calculated, every action has a cost, and every decision affects the people trapped inside the game. What makes the Culling Game especially dangerous is that it removes mortality from the equation. Survival is rewarded, hesitation is punished. Characters are constantly forced to choose between doing what's right and doing what's keeping them alive. And unlike previous arcs, strength alone isn't enough. Understanding the rules matter just as much as power. Strategy becomes more important than brute force. Alliances form out of necessity, not trust, and they can collapse just as quickly as they are made. The Culling Game exists for one reason: to push the evolution of cursed energy forward. By forcing constant conflict, fear, and death, the game creates an environment where cursed techniques grow stronger and more unstable. This isn't chaos by accident, this is chaos by design. So when Season 3 starts, you're not watching characters walk into a battlefield. You are watching them step into a system that's designed to break them, mentally, morally, and physically. So with all that in mind, there are a few key things you need to pay attention to in Season 3 if you don't want to get lost. Season 3 of Jujutsu Kaisen moves differently from earlier seasons, and the biggest mistake people make is watching it like it's still about power alone. Don't get me wrong, strength still matters, but understanding the rules matter more. If a character takes time to explain how their curse technique works, that explanation is important. Jujutsu Kaisen rarely explains stuff just for fun. Another thing to pay attention to is how often characters hesitate. In the Culling games, hesitation isn't portrayed as kindness, it's portrayed as weakness. Characters are constantly forced to make decisions quickly, and those decisions usually come with consequences. If someone survives a situation, it's often because they adapted, not because they were stronger. You should also watch how alliances form and fall apart. Team-ups in Season 3 aren't built on trust or friendship, they're built on survival. Characters cooperate because it benefits them in the moment. Those alliances can end just as fast as they begin. If someone says they're working together for now, that part matters. And another important thing to pay attention to is Megami. His decision making becomes just as important as his strength. Season 3 constantly puts him in situations where there's no clean answer, and the story wants you to feel that discomfort. And finally, pay attention to how the pace feels. Season 3 doesn't slow down. New characters appear quickly, roles are introduced mid-conflict, information is given while fights are already happening. That's intentional. The confusion isn't a flaw, it's part of the experience. If you focus on rules instead of raw power, decisions instead of speeches, and consequences instead of wins, Season 3 becomes much easier to follow. So with all that in mind, Season 3 isn't about relearning the world of Jujutsu Kaisen, it's about surviving the version of it that Shibuya created. If you want episode by episode breakdowns and explanations as Season 3 drops, make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss them. And trust me when I say this, Jujutsu Kaisen only gets darker from here and more confusing. And as always, thanks for watching, and this is truly where it begins.